Autumn of 1941. Retreat. Chaos. And an order to destroy the newest secret weapon so it wouldn't fall into enemy hands. But what if you disobeyed the order? What if, instead of blowing it up, you used it against the rules? 2 men against a tank column. No armor, no chance. In a truck with the roof sliced off so the crew wouldn't suffocate from gunpowder fumes. You are about to see the story of the creation of the Snow Tornado, a homemade rig that turned German infantry and armored cars into dust with a rate of fire of 600 rounds per minute. You will learn why this feat nearly ended in a court-martial, how the crew survived inside a machine that was falling apart from its own power, and the terrible price they paid for victory in a duel where the enemy seemed to hold all the aces. This is not a parade ground war story. This is mud, grease, despair, and engineering fury. Find out how this deadly experiment ended. October 15th, 1941.
Sosnovo Airfield. It doesn't smell like autumn here. It smells of burnt rubber, unburnt aviation kerosene, and animal fear that seems to have soaked even into the wet loam of the runway. If you think a retreat is an organized column marching to a beat, you're an idiot. Retreat is chaos. It's abandoned toolboxes, trucks flipped over in ditches, and people with madness splashing in their eyes. The roar of the front isn't somewhere over the horizon anymore. It is here. The ground is vibrating. It's not a tremor. It's the rhythmic pounding of German artillery grinding our rear guard into paste 10 kilometers from here. Every 3 seconds, a new strike. Like a metronome counting down the time to the end. In the middle of this hell, by a dilapidated hangar, stands Senior Sergeant Demidov. His hands are black with oil and soot, but they aren't shaking. He looks down. Before him, on wooden sawhorses, lies death. Perfect, cold, engineering death. The 23mm WWII-23 aircraft cannon. Volkov and Yartsev. A masterpiece of weapons design. Most infantrymen have never seen this weapon up close. To them, it's just a black dot under the wing of an ill plane, spewing fire. But here, on the ground, it looks alien, bulky, dangerous. 66 kilograms of alloy steel, length 2 meters and 15 centimeters. This isn't a rifle you can sling over your shoulder. This is a machine created to tear duralumin and shatter armored glass. Demidov has an order in his tunic pocket. The paper is crumpled, the text typed on a machine with a broken letter R. The order is simple. Destroy all material and technical assets not subject to evacuation. Destroy. Demidov runs his palm over the breach. The metal is freezing, burning his fingers. Hidden inside this mechanism is energy capable of stopping a truck, turning an engine into a pile of hot scrap in 1/10 of a second. Rate of fire, up to 650 rounds per minute. One shell weighs 200 grams. Muzzle velocity, 905 meters per second. That is dry physics. But in war, physics is translated into the language of destruction. The impact of one such shell on a human doesn't leave a wounded man. It leaves a wet spot and fragments of gear. A burst of 3 shells cuts through a brick wall half a meter thick, like a circular saw through rotten wood. And now this power needs to be blown up. Shove a grenade into the barrel, or place a TNT block under the bolt. Turn an engineering masterpiece into twisted scrap metal so the enemy doesn't get it. Technician Ryabov approaches Demidov. He is younger, a student just yesterday. His glasses with a cracked lens are wrapped in electrical tape. He is dragging a toolbox, bending under its weight. "Sergeant!" Ryabov's voice cracks. He shouts to be heard over the roar of a tractor warming up nearby. "The truck is gone!" The last one. There won't be any more transports. Demidov doesn't turn around. He looks at the cannon. "We can't leave it," he says quietly. But Ryabov hears him. "It's an order, Andrei!" The technician throws the box into the mud. "Do you realize how much it weighs? The cannon alone is 66. Belts, ammo, the mount. We can't carry it in our hands. It's an aircraft gun, Sergeant. It has no wheels. It has no carriage for the ground. It's dead without wings." Ryabov is right. It's a law of mechanics. An aircraft cannon is designed to be mounted on rigid hardpoints inside the fuselage or wing of an attack aircraft. All the recoil, and it is monstrous, over 3-ton force, is absorbed by the mass of the plane and its inertia in flight. On the ground, this gun will behave like a rabid beast when fired. It will simply fly backward, breaking the shooter's bones. Blowing it up is a crime. Demidov spits thick saliva onto the concrete. "Out there," he nods toward the roar of the cannonade. "Our boys have nothing to cover themselves against German armored cars. The infantry only has Mosin rifles and bottles of gasoline. And here we have a tool that sews through 25 millimeters of armor from 400 meters. And we're going to blow it up? We're walking, Andrei." Ryabov grabs the sergeant by the sleeve. "Do you hear me? The Germans are already in Sosnovka. That's 5 kilometers. We have half an hour to get out before they cut the highway. Blow it to hell and let's run." Demidov looks at the horizon. Black pillars of smoke are rising there. Those are the fuel depots that have already carried out the order. The sky is gray, low, oppressive. Sleet begins to lash their faces. War isn't just shooting. It's logistics. It's the weight of the ammo load. It's the strength of materials. Demidov knows. To haul this cannon, you need a truck. But all the trucks have either burned or left with the wounded. Only a pile of metal remains on the repair pad. "No," says Demidov. His voice sounds dull, like a hammer striking lead. "I won't blow it up." "You want a court-martial?" Ryabov wipes his fogged-up glasses. He's shaking. Not from the cold, from adrenaline. "Look over there." Demidov points to the far corner of the airfield where, listing to the left, stands the rusted carcass of a truck. "What is that?" "An AMO-3, Ryabov answers automatically. "Its rear axle jams, and the frame cracked back in September. It's scrap metal, Andrei. It won't drive." "It will drive." Demidov yanks the tarp off the breech of the cannon. The oil shines with a dull, greasy luster. "If we force it to." "You've lost your mind." Ryabov takes a step back. "You want to put an aircraft cannon on a rotten truck? The recoil will smash it to splinters with the first shot. The frame will twist like a screw. The cab will fold." "It's physically impossible. Did you study mechanics?" "I studied how to survive." Demidov turns to the technician. His eyes are scarier now than German tanks. There is no panic in them. There is the cold calculation of a butcher sizing up a carcass. "We have a cannon, we have wheels, and we have half an hour before the Fritz show up." Whistle. Somewhere very close a mortar shell lands. The earth shudders. Shrapnel chatters against the concrete, striking sparks. Instinctively, both duck. "Listen to me, student." Demidov grabs Ryabov by the lapels, pulling in close. "We aren't walking. We're driving. And we're taking this beauty with us. Or we die here trying to blow it up. Choose." Ryabov looks at the cannon, at its predatory muzzle brake, at the ammo feed belt,
the links of which gleam dully with copper. He is an engineer. He understands that the task the sergeant is setting is madness, combining the uncombinable.
Shoving aviation power onto a chassis that barely holds its own bed. It contradicts all manuals, all safety standards, all laws of common sense. But all around is war, and war cancels manuals. The frame needs reinforcing, Ryabov says quietly. His brain, accustomed to blueprints, has already started working, pushing fear into the background. We need channels and welding, lots of welding. There's a welder in the repair zone. The generator is still working. Demidov releases the technician. And the platform, Ryabov continues to mutter, his gaze darting over the debris on the airfield. You can't just put it in the bed. We need a damper, something to eat the recoil. Otherwise we'll kill ourselves. We'll find it, Demidov cuts him off. Grab the box, run to the truck. They run to the old AMO-3, their boots squelching in mud mixed with oil. The world is collapsing around them. The retreating army leaves ruins behind. But two men in the middle of this chaos have decided not to destroy, but to create. Create a monster. There is no time for reflection. The second hand on Demidov's trophy watch moves in jerks, measuring out the last moments of relative silence. Soon, hell will be here. But it is in hell that the most terrifying inventions are born. The metal waits. It doesn't care who pulls the trigger. It needs a steady hand and a support. And if there is no support, it will have to be welded from the crap lying underfoot. Ryabov looks back on the run at the cannon lying on the sawhorses. It looks lonely and predatory, a beast that must be tamed in 30 minutes. The task is impossible, but the alternative is death. The sergeant kicks open the jammed door of the repair bay. The smell of ozone and old grease hits his nose. "Start the generator, student," Demidov yells, grabbing a heavy sledgehammer. We're starting surgery. Somewhere on the horizon, in the gray veil of rain, the first German motorcyclists are already checking their maps, unaware that in a few hours they will face something not found in any Wehrmacht handbook. Something being born right now, out of despair, rust, and engineering fury. The airfield tractor drags the rusty AMO-3 under the roof of the repair bay with a strained roar. The truck lists to the left. The leaf springs creak like an old man's joints. It is the sound of dying metal. The machine that is supposed to become the carrier of aviation death is barely alive itself. Lieutenant Technician Ryabov crawls under the undercarriage with a trouble light. The yellow light of the bulb picks out flakes of rust raining down onto the concrete. The spars are rotten. Ryabov's voice sounds hollow, like it's coming from a barrel. The frame is tired. Andre, this is madness. The metal here is thinner than calculated by 30%. Corrosion has eaten the strength. Demidov stands at the workbench, filing burrs off a massive steel plate found in a scrap pile. He doesn't look at the technician. He looks at his watch. The minute hand slices off chunks of their lives. "We don't have another truck," the sergeant throws out dryly. "Work with what we have." Ryabov crawls out from under the truck. His face is smeared with grease. His glasses have slid down his nose. He wipes his hands with a rag, leaving black streaks on it. Formulas are spinning in his head right now. Formulas that in peacetime are written with chalk on a blackboard in quiet lecture halls. Here, these formulas smell like blood. "You don't understand the physics of the process." Ryabov walks up to Demidov, grabbing a piece of chalk and drawing a diagram right on the dirty workbench. "Look, this is the recoil vector. The WWII-23 cannon. The weight of a 1-second burst is 2 kilograms. Recoil energy, 3.5 tons. 3,500 kilograms of dynamic load, Sergeant. It's as if an elephant jumped onto the bed with a running start."
Demidov looks at the crooked lines on the table. He doesn't give a damn about elephants. He needs the cannon to shoot and not fall off. So what? He asks. So, Ryabov pokes his finger at the truck diagram. The AMO-3 has a riveted frame. It's elastic. It's designed to carry sacks of flour over bumps, not to absorb the impulse of an aircraft gun. If we just bolt the mount to the floor of the bed, the very first shot will act like a lever. The torque will tear a piece of the frame out along with the cannon. The gun will fly backward into the cab. Will be smeared across the windshield along with the bolt. It's an engineering dead end. An aircraft cannon is a parasite requiring a rigid host body. A plane is a solid, rigid structure. A truck is a collection of moving parts. To combine them means breaking the laws of structural mechanics. Outside, through the noise of the rain, the sound of a close explosion breaks through. Plaster rains down from the ceiling of the bay, covering the drawing in white dust. Propose something. Demidov brushes away the dust. You're the engineer. Think. How do we trick physics? Ryabov takes off his glasses, rubs the bridge of his nose. His eyes dart around the bay, scanning the space for a solution. His gaze latches onto the carcass of a wrecked Komsomolets artillery tractor standing in the corner. An armored little tractor that had its turret blown off by a direct hit, but the chassis remained intact. We need a sandwich, Ryabov says slowly. The idea is born painfully, breaking through the fear. We can't mount the cannon to a single point. We need to distribute the load, blur the impact. Explain. Demidov puts down the file. We don't put the cannon on the floor. Ryabov starts talking faster, inspiration overwhelming him. We make a subframe. We take channels. We weld a rigid frame, a platform. We lay it on the bottom of the bed, but we don't bolt it rigidly to the truck frame. So how will it hold? On spit and prayers? No, we make a floating sandwich. Wood, metal, wood. We lay timber between the truck frame and our subframe. The wood will act as a damper. It will crush, but it will absorb the peak shock. And the subframe itself... Ryabov runs to the wrecked tractor. We use the hitch assembly from the Komsomolets. He kicks the massive steel knot on the tractor's stern. We'll cut this piece out, meat and all, weld it to our subframe, and tie the receiving part to the truck's spinal beam. The result will be that the cannon sort of pulls the truck behind it when fired, but the impulse goes into the most rigid point, the center of mass. We turn a flimsy truck into a monolithic system. Demidov is silent, thinking over the words. It sounds wild. Building a complex engineering structure out of trash 2 hours before a battle. It contradicts all factory technologies. No blueprints, no strength calculations, no tests. Only intuition and welding. Will it withstand a burst? The sergeant asks. A burst? No, Ryabov answers honestly. The frame won't withstand a long burst. It'll be twisted into a corkscrew by the vibration. We'll have to fire in short bursts. 3 or 4 shots. Bang, 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 and stop. Otherwise, we'll fall apart on the move. But single shots and short bursts, this system will eat them. It should eat them. And if it doesn't? Then we'll die from our own shot before the Germans kill us. Demidov grins. The smile comes out crooked, mean. Good choice. I like it. He walks to the welding machine. The old, bulky transformer hums like a disturbed beehive. What do you need? 2 channels, 3 meters each. Timber, we can dismantle the benches in the bed. And a torch to cut the piece off the Komsomolets. Ryabov no longer looks like a scared student. Now he is the chief designer. The puzzle has come together in his head. Fear has left, giving way to the thrill of solving the problem. And one more thing, Andrei. The technician raises a finger. We need to remove the cab, or cut off the roof. Why? Demidov frowns. Winter is coming. We'll freeze. Gases, Ryabov throws out shortly. The muzzle of the cannon will be right over our heads. Gunpowder gases from the WWII contain carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxides. If the cab is closed, we'll suffocate after the second burst. We need ventilation. Maximum ventilation. So, a convertible. Demidov takes the torch. Cut it. The blinding blue flame of the acetylene torch flares up in the bay. It smells of ozone and burnt paint. Ryabov grabs the sledgehammer and swings hard at the rotten side of the AM-03, knocking off the rot. The race begins. It's not just a repair. It's a battle of structural mechanics against necessity. Every minute is another millimeter of weld seam. Every blow of the hammer is an attempt to cheat death. Improvisation isn't when you do whatever. Improvisation is when you know the exact limits of materials and dance on the very edge, not letting the structure collapse into the abyss. Ryabov shouts over the noise of the torch. Center of gravity! The cannon needs to be moved as far forward as possible, right up to the cab. Otherwise the truck will do a wheelie from the recoil. Demidov nods, not looking up from the fire. Metal melts, dripping in fiery drops onto his boots. It doesn't hurt. Adrenaline works better than Novocaine. They are creating a monster. A hybrid of a rusty rear echelon workhorse and a sky predator. In normal life, for such tuning, they would be sent to court for sabotage. But here and now, to the accompaniment of German artillery, the only possible answer to the enemy is being born. Crude, ugly, deadly. Bring the channels, yells Demidov, tossing aside a burnt electrode. No time! Outside, the rising drone of aircraft engines is heard. The Luftwaffe is already here. Junkers are approaching their target. But the two men in the garage don't give a damn about bombers. They have their own war. A war with metal that doesn't want to submit, and with the laws of physics that claim an aircraft cannon cannot drive on a truck. They will prove otherwise. Or die trying. 2 hours. 120 minutes. That is the lifespan the war and geography have allotted them. In 2 hours, German tanks will cut the highway beyond the forest, and this hangar will become a mass grave. Inside the bay, time does not exist. There is only the blinding white arc of electric welding and the howl of an angle grinder. The air here is dense, blue-gray, toxic. There is nothing to breathe. A mixture of ozone, burnt paint, and singed human skin. Scale burns through tunics, melts into flesh, but no one stops to brush off the sparks. Ryabov is welding. He was never a professional welder. He is a theoretician, but now his hand guides the electrode with fanatical stubbornness. The seam comes out rough, scaled, with slag inclusions. At a factory, a quality control master would reject such a seam. Here, 5 kilometers from the front line, this seam is the only thing separating life from death. Demidov works with the sledgehammer. He drives steel channels into the slots of the homemade subframe. "Hit it!" shouts Ryabov through his mask. "Harder! It has to fit tight!" Strike. Another strike. The ring of metal hits the eardrums, drowning out even the artillery cannonade outside. Sweat floods their eyes, acrid, salty. Demidov throws off his padded jacket. Steam rises from his back like from a driven horse. In the frost of -5 degrees inside the unheated hangar, it is hot as a blast furnace. They are creating a freak. The roof of the AM-03 cab has been cut off with an acetylene torch. The edges are jagged, sharp as a razor. Now it's a convertible for suicide bombers. Instead of a bed, a layered pie of wood and steel. That same recoil damping system Ryabov came up with half an hour ago. The timber creaks when they tighten the bolts, stripping the threads from the effort. The wrench slips in oily hands, skinning knuckles to the blood. There is no pain. Pain will come later, if they survive. The scariest part is installing the gun. The WWII-23 cannon lies on the floor, looking like the torn-out spine of a prehistoric lizard. 66 kilograms of cold, blued steel, plus the ammo belt, plus the feed mechanism. No winch. The hoists are broken. "Lift!" croaks Demidov. They lift it with their hands, together. This is a violation of all labor safety standards. Spines crack under the load. Veins on their necks bulge, threatening to burst. The metal is slippery, heavy. It pulls down toward the earth. The breech of the gun weighs like a tombstone. "Hold it! Hold it, damn it!" Ryabov braces his shoulder against the barrel, his feet sliding on an oil slick. With a clang that sets teeth on edge, the cannon falls into the prepared cradle. The truck's shock absorbers sag. The machine squats on its rear axle, accepting the weight of the alien organ. Now they are a single whole. Frankenstein has gained a heart. At that moment, the bay door flies open. A gust of icy wind disperses the welding smoke. Battalion Commissar Savelyev stands on the threshold. His greatcoat is impeccably buttoned. His belt shines. His face is clean-shaven despite the chaos of the retreat. In his hand is not a pointer, but a TT pistol. Savelyev looks at the mutilated truck, at the sliced-off roof, at the aircraft cannon welded to the bed. To a man of the system, this doesn't look like an invention. It looks like sabotage. Destruction of entrusted military property on a massive scale. "What is going on here?" The commissar's voice is quiet, but it cuts through the noise of the generator. Demidov slowly straightens up. He is still clutching the sledgehammer in his hands. "Preparing the vehicle for combat, Comrade Battalion Commissar." "For combat?" Savelyev takes a step forward. The pistol barrel points at the floor, but his finger is on the trigger guard. "You destroyed a truck. You dismantled aircraft armament without headquarters sanction. Under wartime laws, that is execution on the spot. Sabotage and wrecking." Ryabov freezes with the electrode in his hand. He understands. They are about to be killed. Not by Germans, by their own side, for trying to save the situation. Such is the logic of bureaucracy. Better to blow up equipment by order than to spoil it for the sake of victory. "It's an assault rig." Demidov looks straight into the commissar's eyes. The sergeant's gaze is heavier than the hammer in his hand. "The Germans have nothing to answer 23 millimeters. We will delay them." "You ruined the machine, Sergeant. It won't reach the front. The frame will snap." Savelyev isn't a fool. He sees the rust. He sees the crude welds. "And you want to leave the cannon here? For the enemy?" Demidov takes a step forward. "We have two options, Comrade Commissar. Either you shoot us right now and blow up this garage, or you give us an hour and we burn that German column to hell." Silence. Only drops of water from the leaky roof fall onto the red-hot metal of the weld, hissing like snakes. Savelyev shifts his gaze from Demidov to Ryabov, then to the ugly contraption. He doesn't see technical wretchedness. He sees despair cast in metal. He sees men who aren't running, but preparing to die standing. It is a moment of truth. A collision between a regulation paragraph and the truth of war. Savelyev slowly puts the pistol back in its holster. The click of the clasp sounds like a gunshot. "You don't have an hour," he says dryly. "You have 40 minutes. He walks up to the truck, runs a gloved finger over the still hot weld. The glove smokes.
If this contraption falls apart before the first shot, I will personally execute you for property damage in front of the formation. If you retreat without orders, court-martial. Your task is the crossroads at the old mill. Hold it at any cost. Yes, hold it, exhales Ryabov, wiping his glasses. Under my personal responsibility, adds Savliev, turning to the exit. Take all the shells, and pray to your god of mechanics that it doesn't jam. The door closes. 40 minutes! Yells Demidov, grabbing the welding mask again. Did you hear that, student? Weld the stops! I'm getting the belts! Work resumes with doubled fury. Now it's not just an engineering task. Now it's a race, with death breathing down their necks from two sides. From the front, German tanks. From behind, an NKVD firing squad. Demidov drags boxes of shells. Each box is 25 kilograms. High explosive fragmentation, armor-piercing incendiary. Death packed in wooden crates. He stuffs the belt. His fingers don't obey, but the movements are practiced to automatism. Click, click, click. The shells enter the links. The brass of the casings shines dully in the light of the trouble lamp. "Ready!" shouts Ryabov, knocking off the last piece of slag. They look at their creation. It's not a machine. It's a perfectionist's nightmare. The truck looks like a flayed beast with a steel spike implanted in its spine. The weld seams are rough. The metal is scorched. Instead of a roof, emptiness opening up to the gray sky. But the barrel of the cannon points forward, strictly parallel to the ground. The horizon is level. Demidov jumps into the cab, or rather into what's left of it. The driver's seat is wet with rain. Instead of a windshield, nothing. The wind will hit their faces along with the gunpowder fumes. "Start it up!" The starter rasps. The battery is on its last legs. The engine sneezes, then, reluctantly, skipping beats, comes to life. The exhaust is blue, stinking. The motor is misfiring, but pulling. The truck moves. The structure creaks and groans. Every unevenness of the concrete floor reverberates in the spine. The cannon in the back vibrates slightly, its barrel nodding in time with the truck's movements. They drive out of the hangar into the freezing rain, toward the war. Behind, on the smoking armor of the snow tornado, lies their hope and their sentence. The engineering calculation is over. The stress test has begun. Ahead is the crossroads, and 16 seconds that will change everything. The highway by the old mill is empty. Gray asphalt, dusted with the first snow, stretches into the fog. Visibility, 300 meters. Beyond that, white milk hiding the world. Demidov sits in the gunner's iron chair. His body is tense as a bowstring. His gloved hands rest on the triggers. It isn't a steering wheel. It's an electrical firing mechanism converted to mechanical by brute force and wire. Under his feet is the wooden decking meant to play the role of shock absorber. Ryabov is in the cab. He has no doors. He has no windshield. He sees the sergeant's back and the massive breech of the cannon hanging over his head. The engine of the AM-03 idles. Vibration transmits to the body, making the reticle tremble. "They're coming!" Ryabov's voice drowns in the wind noise. But Demidov hears. He doesn't hear with his ears. He feels the vibration of the ground. First, the sound. The high-pitched buzzing sound of BMW Boxer engines. German punctuality. Reconnaissance. They are coming confidently, arrogantly, not expecting resistance. They know the Russians are retreating. They know there are no tanks here. 3 dark silhouettes emerge from the fog. Motorcycles with sidecars. On each,
an MG-34 machine gun. Behind them, heavily swaying over the bumps, crawls an angular shadow. An SD KFZ 222 armored car. 20 millimeters of frontal armor, automatic cannon in the turret. Masters of the road. Distance, 400 meters. Demidov doesn't breathe. His world has narrowed to the crosshairs of the sight. In this moment, there is no fear, no cold, no thoughts of home. There is only the angular velocity of the target and the lead. "Closer," he whispers with just his lips. "Closer, you bastards." 300 meters. The Germans notice the strange truck without a cab standing across the road. The ugly silhouette against the gray sky causes them curiosity rather than fear. The lead motorcyclist raises his hand. The column slows down. That is their mistake. A fatal mistake. They gave Demidov 2 seconds of static. "Fire!" Demidov presses the triggers. It isn't a shot. It's an earthquake. The WWII-23 aircraft cannon, created to tear turrets off tanks from a bird's-eye view, opens fire at point-blank range from the plane of the Earth. Rate of fire, 10 shots per second. First burst, 3 shells. The truck bucks. The front wheels lift 10 centimeters off the asphalt. Ryabov's wooden sandwich groans, compressing to the density of oak. The frame of the AM-03 bends in an arc. The metal screeches from the overload. It seems the machine is about to disintegrate into bolts. But the shells are already gone. One shell weighs 200 grams. It flies at a speed of 900 meters per second. The kinetic energy upon impact is such that the concept of armor ceases to exist for a motorcycle. The first motorcycle doesn't fall. It simply disappears. 1 second there were people, machinery, gasoline, rubber. The next second, a cloud of fire mixed with dirt and metallic confetti. The shell hit the engine. The cylinder block turned into shrapnel that mowed down the crew faster than the nervous system could transmit the pain signal to the brain. "Got him!" yells Ryabov, gripping the steering wheel, which is kicking his hands. Demidov shifts fire. The barrel of the cannon is shaking. Holding it is like wrestling a bear. The recoil hits his shoulders, knocking the air out of his lungs. Casings, hot and heavy, fly onto the floor of the bed, ringing like bells. Second burst. Another 3 shells. The second motorcycle tries to swerve into the ditch. Useless. The shell enters the ground in front of the front wheel and detonates. The blast wave flips the heavy machine in the air like a child's toy. The next shell rips open the gas tank. A ball of fire swells instantly, swallowing the screams. The armored car remains. The turret of the German machine starts to turn. The commander inside panics. He doesn't understand what is happening. It's not a machine gun. It's not an anti-tank rifle. It's Thor's hammer striking with the frequency of a sewing machine. Demidov sees the long barrel of the German 20mm gun searching for them. It's a duel. Who is first? The German has armor. Demidov has plywood and rusty tin. But Demidov has 23mm caliber, and he is already zeroed in. "Eat this," the sergeant snarls. Long burst, 5 shells. Half a second of fire. The AM-03 truck lists backwards so hard the rear bumper scrapes the asphalt. The weld seams Ryabov laid crackle, covered in microfissures, but they hold. The Komsomolet's hook has bitten into the frame with a death grip. The WWII-23 shells are armor-piercing incendiary monsters. For them, the 14 millimeters of side armor on the German armored car is cardboard. First hit. Sparks. The shell stitches through the sloped armor plate like a needle through fabric. Second hit. Impact on the ammo storage inside the vehicle. Third hit. Engine.
The armored car shudders, stopping dead. Smoke pours from the view slits. A moment later, hatches fly open, but no one climbs out. A fiery vortex rages inside the machine. The detonation of its own ammo rips the hull from the inside. The turret is torn from the ring and thrown onto the roadside. Silence. It descends instantly, pressing on the ears like a cotton pillow. Ringing. A high, piercing squeal stands in the ears, the consequence of acoustic shock. The entire fight took 16 seconds. Demidov releases the triggers. His fingers are cramped. He has to force them open by sheer will. Blue smoke rises from the cannon barrel. Heat shimmer distorts the air. The paint on the breech has blistered. On the road, 300 meters away, 3 fires are burning. Black, greasy smoke rises to the sky, mixing with the fog.
No one got away. No one even managed to fire back.
Alive? Ryabov's voice is hoarse, alien.
Demidov looks down into the cab. The technician is sitting there, gripping the steering wheel with white-knuckled fingers. His glasses have slid sideways. His face is covered in soot. The frame. Ryabov isn't looking at the burning Germans. He is looking at the oil pressure gauge and the floor of the bed. The frame is intact, Andrei. It played. The wood worked. Demidov wipes sweat from his forehead with his sleeve. His heart is pounding somewhere in his throat. Every beat echoes in his temples. Adrenaline recedes, replaced by cold tremors. It's the come-down. The body's reaction to having just been a hair's breadth from death. He looks at his hands. They are dirty, oily, shaking. But these are hands that just destroyed a Wehrmacht advance guard using an aircraft cannon and scrap metal. This is just the beginning, says Demidov. He spits out the bitterness in his mouth. The taste of gunpowder is with him forever now. Now they'll report that there's an ambush here and send someone more serious. Are we leaving? Ryabov is already reaching for the gear shift. Reload, commands Demidov, jumping into the bed. His legs are buzzing as if he ran a marathon. Check the mounts. If the bolts are loose, the next burst will tear our heads off. Ryabov climbs out of the cab. He walks around the truck, inspecting the structure. Crack on the right spar went further, he states, running a finger over the rusty metal. But the weld is holding. The hook from the tractor is in place. We lost 2 bolts on the subframe, sheared clean off. Replace them? No time, and nothing to use. We'll wire it so it doesn't rattle. Demidov opens a box of shells, the smell of fresh wood and grease. He takes a new belt, a heavy, cold snake. He feeds it into the receiver. The click of the cover sounds like a sentence for the next one who dares to appear on this road. Physics 1. Ryabov's calculation proved correct. The recoil impulse, distributed through the buffer zone and rigid coupling, went into the ground, not into destroying the machine. But this is the limit. Another burst like that, and metal fatigue will do its job. They stand in the middle of the road, 2 men and their ugly offspring, surrounded by burning enemy equipment. Snow falls on the red-hot barrel and hisses, evaporating. In the distance, beyond the forest, a rumble builds again, low, heavy, guttural. Those aren't motorcycles. Those are tank diesels. Round 1 went to the engineers. But war is an elimination tournament, and the stakes just went up. Start it up, student. Demidov slaps the heated breech with his palm. We're changing position. It's going to get hot here. Ryabov nods. Behind the lenses of his glasses, there is no longer the fear of a freshman student. A cold glint has appeared there. The glint of a man who has realized his knowledge can kill. The AMO-3 turns around with a roar, crushing frozen mud with its wheels, and heads toward the forest, leaving behind 16 seconds of its triumph. 16 seconds that proved even a rusty truck can become a weapon of vengeance if you bolt enough anger and aviation caliber to it. The old mill stands on the hill like a rotten tooth, a strategic height. From here, the entire river floodplain is visible, where the Germans are trying to lay pontoons. It's an ideal position for a machine gun, but for the snow tornado, it's a shooting gallery. 3 hours have passed since the first fight. The barrel of the WWII is no longer blued steel. It is gray from soot and overheating. The paint on the breech has peeled off in flakes, exposing the metal. Down below, on the road, is hell. A Wehrmacht supply column has fallen into a trap.
Opel Blitz trucks, covered in canvas, are burning, lined up in a neat row.
Demidov works like a surgeon, amputating limbs from a gangrenous patient. A short burst, and a truck turns into a torch. A 23mm high-explosive shell hitting a wooden side doesn't just punch through, it blows the structure to splinters. The canvas catches fire instantly. Drivers don't have time to jump out. "Left! Reference point! Dry pine! Infantry!" shouts Ryabov, yelling over the roar of shots. He acts as a spotter, leaning out of what used to be the doorframe of the cab. Demidov spins the aiming hand wheels. The mechanism, lubricated with a mix of grease and graphite, works stiffly. His arms are cramped. His shoulders ache from the constant recoil shocks passing even through the buffer cushion. But he doesn't feel fatigue. He feels rhythm. The WWII spits death in portions. Tracers draw lines in the twilight. Where these lines touch the ground, fountains of frozen dirt and human bodies erupt. German infantry has pinned down in a ditch. They have no chance to get up. The density of fire from the aircraft cannon is such that it shears bushes along with helmets. It is the triumph of technology over flesh. Man is soft. The shell is hard. The result is predictable. But any force has inertia, and any position has an expiration date. Demidov and Ryabov made a mistake. A typical mistake of novices intoxicated by the power of their weapon. They stayed too long. They believed in their invulnerability, forgetting they aren't sitting in a KV-1 tank, but in a rusty truck with tin walls 1 millimeter thick. The Germans are professionals. They quickly realized you can't take this lawnmower head-on. Machine guns go silent before they can zero in. That means ballistics are needed. The sound of a mortar differs from the sound of a cannon. A cannon barks. A mortar coughs. A dull, guttural sound. Thump. Thump. 81mm GRW-34 mortar. "Air!" screams Demidov. But it's too late. He doesn't see the mines. He hears the whistle. A nasty, rising howl that makes the inside of your stomach go cold. The first mine lands 20 meters away. Short. The blast wave throws clumps of earth into the bed. Shrapnel clicks against the frame like hail on a roof. "Go! Student, drive!" Demidov kicks the cab. Ryabov frantically presses the starter. The engine, overheated and exhausted by the jerking, is silent. The Bendix screeches, spinning freely. "Come on, damn it!" Ryabov punches the dashboard. The glass of the pressure gauge cracks. The needle drops to 0. Thump. Thump. The German battery coughs again. Bracket. Now they've adjusted. The second mine lands behind, smashing the tailgate. Shrapnel slashes the tires. The tires deflate with a snake's hiss. The truck settles on its rims. Now it's not a vehicle. It's a stationary target. "Run!" Demidov realizes. This is the end. The physics of battle are merciless. A stationary object with zero armor under mortar fire lives exactly until the next volley. He doesn't have time to jump. The third mine hits the hood of the AMO-3 dead on. An 81mm explosion is half a kilogram of cast TNT. For a tank, it's a scratch. For a truck, a death sentence. The hood disappears. The engine is torn from its mounts and shoved into the cab. The flash blinds. The blast wave hits Demidov in the chest like a blacksmith's hammer. He is thrown out of the bed like a rag doll. He flies backward, hitting the frozen ground, rolls, instinctively covering his head with his hands. The world turns into ringing and fire. Ryabov tumbles out of the burning cab through the missing door. His padded jacket is smoking, his glasses are smashed, his face is bloody. Shards of the windshield that wasn't there were replaced by shards of metal and plastic. He crawls through the mud, scooping snow with his hands, trying to get away from the truck. "Get down!" rasps Demidov, pressing the technician's head into the mud. A second later, what every artilleryman fears happens. Ammo detonation. 200 shells remained in the bed of the tornado. The fire reached them. It isn't one explosion. It is a series of monstrous pops merging into a single roar. Shells burst chaotically, in all directions. Tracers fan out, setting dry grass and the remains of the mill on fire. The aircraft cannon, torn from its mounts, flies into the air, spinning like a burning match, and falls 10 meters from the crater. The barrel is bent in an arc, the breech is split. The engineering masterpiece of Volkov and Yartsev has turned into scrap metal. The AMO-3 is no more. There is only the skeleton of the frame, engulfed in flames, and 4 burning wheels rolling in different directions. Demidov lifts his head. The ringing in his ears is so strong he doesn't hear his own breathing. He sees Ryabov sitting on the ground, staring at the burning wreckage. The technician's gaze is empty. He isn't looking at the fire. He is watching his offspring die. Their snow tornado existed for 4 hours. It destroyed a truck column, 2 armored cars, and an infantry platoon. It justified its creation 200%. And it burned in 1 second, because tin is not armor. Demidov crawls to Ryabov, grabs him by the collar, jerks him to his feet. "Let's go!" the sergeant screams right into the technician's ear, but barely hears himself. "They're gonna blanket the square!" Ryabov nods, dazed, like a mannequin. He is limping. Blood runs down his cheek, mixing with soot. They run toward the tree line. Behind them, their first hope burns out. Cold air burns their lungs. Running is heavy. Legs sink in the sodden clay. Is this defeat? No. It is a lesson. A cruel, bloody lesson in applied mechanics. Improvisation has a yield strength. A truck is a delivery platform, not a combat vehicle. Glass doesn't protect against shrapnel. Reload speed doesn't matter if you can't change position. They fall into a ravine, breathing heavily. Steam comes from their mouths in white clouds. Demidov checks his submachine gun. The bolt is jammed with mud. He throws the useless iron aside. "We're alive," wheezes Ryabov, feeling his ribs. Alive. Demidov looks at him. There is no fear in the sergeant's eyes. There is anger. Cold, calculating anger of a man who lost a tool but didn't lose the desire to work. Alive, he confirms. Which means we'll make a new one. A new one? Ryabov wipes his surviving eye. From what, Andrei? We have nothing. We'll find it. Demidov looks toward division headquarters, where they now have to go to report the loss of equipment. The war isn't over yet. and there's plenty of scrap metal in Russia. Behind them, by the mill, the German mortar crews stop firing. They think they destroyed the problem. They are mistaken. They destroyed only the prototype. The designers survived. And now they know the weak points of their schematic. The next iteration will be scarier. It is the law of evolution. He who adapts survives. And war is the fastest catalyst for evolution. Demidov stands up. "Get up, student. The major is waiting for us." They walk into the darkness, leaving behind the smoldering skeleton of the AM-03, which became a grave for metal, but a cradle for a new idea. The idea is simple. If there is no armor, power is needed. If there is no protection, you need even more fire. Absolute firepower as the only method of survival. Division headquarters isn't a building, it's a burrow. 3 layers of logs, 2 meters of frozen earth on top. You can't hear explosions here, but you can hear dirt sifting from the ceiling with every strike of a German howitzer. The air is stale, heavy. It smells of cheap Beliomor Canal tobacco, unwashed staff bodies, and sour cabbage soup. A kerosene lamp smokes, picking faces gray from lack of sleep out of the gloom. Major Krylov stands over a map. His eyes are red, eyelids inflamed. He hasn't slept for 3 days. The map is speckled with blue arrows. Blue is advancing, red is retreating and disappearing. The door of the dugout opens with a creak. Demidov and Ryabov enter. They look like ghosts. Their padded jackets are burned in many places, their faces crusted with soot and blood. Ryabov has no glasses. They stayed back there, in the mud by the mill. He squints, trying to focus his gaze in the dim light. Demidov can barely stand, leaning his shoulder against the doorframe. His arms hang like whips. Muscles are clogged with lactic acid to the point of spasms. They expect arrest. Loss of entrusted equipment. Abandoning a position. In 1941, people were put against the wall without trial for less. Krylov slowly lifts his head from the map. He looks at them for a long time, evaluating. There is no pity in his gaze. Pity is a luxury the major cannot afford. He doesn't see people. He sees a resource. Worn, damaged, but still functional resource. "Report." Krylov's voice is dry, like the crack of a breaking branch. "The rig is destroyed, Comrade Major," croaks Demidov. His throat is burned by gunpowder gases. His voice sounds like grinding metal. "Direct mortar hit. Crew 2 made it out. Mission partially accomplished. Supply column burned. 2 armored cars destroyed. Infantry scattered." Silence hangs in the dugout. You can hear a fly buzzing, miraculously surviving in the October cold. The clerk in the corner stops typing. Everyone waits for the sentence. Krylov walks up close to Demidov. The major smells of Chypre cologne and stale sweat. "You think I'm going to shoot you, Sergeant?" he asks quietly. "That would be too easy. You die and your problems end. But my problems are just starting." The major abruptly turns to the map and pokes a finger at a spot circled in thick red. "Communications hub, height 212. If we lose this hub, the division goes blind and deaf. We stop being an army and become a herd. And the Germans know this." He pauses, letting the words sink in. Recon reports. A breakthrough group is moving toward the height. Not infantry on trucks. Assault guns. Stug 3s. We call them bars. Low, wide frontal armor, 50 millimeters. They have 75 millimeter cannons. They'll flatten our defense like a pancake. We only have infantry with grenades and one 45mm gun with 5 shells left there. Ryabov takes a step forward. The engineer in him wakes up faster than the instinct of self-preservation.
50mm, he asks again. 23mm won't take them head-on. The BZ-20 armor-piercing shell of the aircraft cannon penetrates 25mm at 500 meters. Ricochet will be 100%. It's physics. Krylov looks at the technician with interest. Physics, you say? I don't give a damn about your physics, Lieutenant. I need to stop those boxes. The Major returns to the table, picks up a cigarette, crushes the mouthpiece. You showed you know how to assemble monsters out of trash. Your freak burned a column in 16 seconds. That's impressive. So instead of a court-martial, you get a new order. Demidov closes his eyes. He understands what is about to happen. You will build another machine, Krylov enunciates. There is another VR-23 cannon in the repair battalion, taken from a downed IL. And there is a truck. Not that rotten Amo you were riding. A ZIS-5. 3-tonner. Stronger frame, more powerful engine, 73 horsepower. Timeline? Asks Demidov, opening his eyes. 24 hours. That's impossible, Ryabov shakes his head. We need to reinforce the suspension, weld a new turret, calculate angles. That's a week of factory shift work. The men are dropping, Comrade Major. We haven't slept for 2 days. Hands can't hold tools. Krylov slams his fist on the table. The tea glass holder jumps, splashing brown liquid onto the map. Impossible is when you are dead, he yells. The Major's face fills with blood. As long as you breathe, you work. The Germans will be at the comms hub in 30 hours. You have 24 to assemble the machine, and 6 to get to position and camouflage. You'll sleep after the war, or in the grave. Choose. It isn't a request. It's an ultimatum. The logic of war is simple. Human resources are expended until total exhaustion. Fatigue is not a mitigating circumstance. We need men, says Demidov firmly. 2 isn't enough. We need a welder, a normal one, certified, and an engine mechanic. The ZIS needs an overhaul, otherwise it won't pull the weight of the ammo and armor plates. We're going to hang shields. I'm not going under fire without shields again. Take whoever you want from the repair company. Krylov waves his hand. Materials, whatever. I authorize cutting up any equipment that isn't running. Saw up my staff car if it helps. But tomorrow night that machine better growl and shoot. The Major sits heavily on a stool. The flash of anger has passed, leaving only the leaden weight of responsibility. And one more thing. He looks at Demidov from below. The bars aren't trucks. They have ZIS optics. They'll see you before you see them. Think with your head, your engineering head. You can't defeat them with force, so you have to defeat them with cunning. Dismissed. Demidov and Ryabov walk out of the dugout into the cold night. Stars hang overhead, bright, indifferent. The frost is strengthening. The mud underfoot sets into an icy crust, crunching with every step. 24 hours, mutters Ryabov. He rubs his temples, trying to jumpstart his tired brain. ZIS-5. It has a longer wheelbase. That's a plus. Center of mass is more stable. But the leaf springs are still weak. We'll have to add leaves. Demidov is silent. He isn't thinking about leaf springs. He is thinking about the crews of the German self-propelled guns. Aces sit there. Men who went through Poland and France. They know how to kill. Andrei, did you hear? Ryabov tugs his sleeve. 50mm frontal. We won't penetrate them. It's suicide. The Major sent us to slaughter. We won't penetrate head-on, agrees Demidov.
He stops, lights a trophy cigarette. His hands shake, the match breaks.
So, we won't hit them head on.
Then where? Every armor has holes, tracks, optics, sides, belly. Demidov blows a stream of smoke into the frosty air. We're going to make not just a cannon on wheels, student. We're going to make a mobile firing point. The ZIS allows taking more cargo. We'll plate the cab with metal. We'll put a shield on the gun. We'll take 500 shells. 500? Ryabov is horrified. That's over 100 kilos just in ammo, plus crates, plus crew. 500, repeats Demidov grimly. Last time we didn't have enough firepower to suppress the mortars. That mistake won't happen again. We'll drown them in fire so they can't lift their heads. They approach the repair zone. There, in the dark, stand the skeletons of vehicles, a graveyard of equipment. But for them now, it is a parts warehouse. Ahead is a night of hell. Welding again, the smell of burnt metal again, the battle with structural mechanics again.
But now the stakes are higher.
Not just their lives are on the line, but the eyes and ears of an entire division. Ryabov suddenly stops. Listen, Andrei. Krylov is right. About what? We're already dead men. Statistically, we should have died back at the crossroads. We're living on borrowed time. Demidov grins, a scary grin on a black face. Then we have nothing to lose. And dead men, student, are the most dangerous soldiers. They aren't afraid to die a second time. He throws the cigarette butt into the snow. The red dot goes out with a quiet hiss. Get to work. The race has started again. Lap 2. Only now the opponent isn't chaos and motorcycles, but the German engineering school and ZIS optics. And to defeat them, Soviet ingenuity must jump over its own head, above the laws of physics. 0 hours, 15 minutes. The air temperature in the hangar drops to -10. Breath turns to steam, which immediately settles as frost on eyelashes. The ZIS-5 stands in the center of the bay, like a sacrificial animal on the altar of industrial war. This is no longer the flimsy AMO-3. This is Zakar, the workhorse of the Red Army. 73 horsepower, long wheelbase, dual rear wheels. But even it looks pathetic before the task placed upon it. Demidov drags a steel sheet across the concrete floor. It's a side panel from a burned-out fuel tanker. Metal 8 millimeters thick. It's not armor steel, it's regular structural iron, but it's capable of stopping a mortar fragment or a bullet at the end of its flight. "Weld here!" Demidov punches the door frame. "Plate everything! Leave a slit for vision, 5 centimeters, no more." Ryabov changes the electrode. His hands in canvas mittens resemble crab claws, stiff, frozen. He doesn't feel his fingers. He works on muscle memory. The flash of the arc blinds for a moment, picking exhausted faces out of the darkness. Lesson learned. Glass kills.
An open cab is an invitation for shrapnel.
Now they aren't building a convertible, but a capsule. An ugly, cramped, but protected steel box. The springs won't hold. Ryabov's voice is muffled. He speaks through the mask. We're hanging 200 kilos of iron on the nose, plus the cannon in the back, plus ammo. The frame will snap in half on the first bump. It won't snap. Demidov drags a jack under the rear axle. We'll add leaves. In the corner of the bay lie leaf springs from wrecked trucks. They assemble a pack. Reinforcing the suspension isn't tuning, it's a survival necessity. Every additional plate of metal is a chance to deliver the cargo to the position. And the cargo is death. 500 shells. Demidov looks at the mountain of boxes. 500 shots. 125 kilograms of pure hatred. Last time they ran out of ammo in the heat of battle. This time, they can fire continuously for almost a minute. For the WWII aircraft cannon, that is an eternity. The barrel will glow red, the rifling will swim, but these 500 shells will turn any square of terrain into a lunar landscape. "Pass the 32 wrench!" shouts the mechanic from the repair company given to help them. He is lying under the engine in a puddle of icy oil. They are rebuilding the heart of the machine. The carburetor is cleaned to a shine. The timing is set with jeweler's precision. In winter, in the cold, the engine must start from a single thought. If it stalls in battle, they are corpses. 3 in the morning, the darkest time. The body demands sleep. Consciousness begins to swim. Ryabov catches himself staring at a weld seam and seeing the patterns of the carpet in his Leningrad apartment. "Don't sleep!" Demidov hits him on the shoulder. The blow is heavy, rough. "Fall asleep, you'll weld your hand to the side." Ryabov shakes his head. Pain sobers him up. He takes the angle grinder. The screech of stone on metal cuts into the brain. Sparks shower down his collar, burning his neck. That's good. Pain keeps him from shutting down. Now the turret. The old mount is destroyed. They are making a new one. Lower, more massive. The center of gravity lowers. Now the cannon doesn't stick up over the cab like a giraffe. It sits in the bed, hugging the frame. The barrel passes through a special cutout in the armored shield that covers the rear wall of the cab. This is no longer an improvisation on the knee. It is evolution. Natural selection of technical solutions. Everything unnecessary is cut off. Everything weak is reinforced. Only the function remains. To kill. The WWII falls into place with a heavy clang. It looks like a queen on a throne of trash here. Around it, along the sides of the bed, steel plates are welded on. A cabin is formed. Open at the top, but protected on the sides. "Firing sector?" asks Demidov, checking the rotation mechanism.
270 degrees, answers Ryabov, greasing the gears with a mix of kerosene and oil so it doesn't thicken in the frost. "Can't shoot forward, you'll blow the cab off. Only sides and back."
"Enough. We won't attack head-on. We'll bite and run." 5 in the morning. Work is finished. It is quiet in the hangar. Only the cooling metal crackles from internal stress. Men sit on the floor, leaning against wheels. There is no strength even to smoke. Hands are black, faces look like death masks. Demidov looks at their creation. If the first machine was a flimsy shelf, this one is a monster. Frankenstein sewn from pieces of different flesh. The cab of the ZIS-5 is plated with rusty sheets of iron, showing traces of rivets and old paint. Instead of a bed, an armored box with a predatory barrel and massive muzzle brake sticking out. The rear wheels have sagged under the monstrous weight, despite the reinforced springs.
The machine presses on the concrete with its mass. It radiates threat.
This isn't a vehicle for a parade. It's a vehicle for the apocalypse. "Snow Tornado 2, says Ryabov quietly. His voice creaks. "Looks like it already burned and rose from hell." "What matters is how it shoots." Demidov stands up. Knees crunch. Every movement takes effort. "Start it. Need to check the drive." The mechanic turns the crank. 1, 2, 3. The engine of the ZIS-5 wakes up. The sound is different. Not the strained whine of the worn-out AMO, but a low, confident bass. The exhaust pipe spits a cloud of black smoke. The machine vibrates, but it isn't the tremble of fear. It is the tremble of power. Heavy steel armor dampens small vibrations. Demidov jumps into the armored cabin. It's cramped here. Boxes of shells take up all free space. Underfoot, a casing collector welded from a barrel. Now, hot casings won't roll under feet, burning boots. Move out! The hangar gates open.
The morning is gray, misty. Frost -12. The ZIS-5 slowly rolls out into the light. The tracks of German tanks are somewhere out there, ahead, clanking, approaching height 212. But now the Red Army has an argument. The machine moves heavily. Every ton of weight is felt. Inertia is colossal. Acceleration is slow. Braking is long. It is no longer a nimble truck. It is a land gunboat. Ryabov is behind the wheel. He looks through the narrow vision slit. The world outside is sliced into strips, but he feels calmer. The iron around gives an illusion of safety. "How'd this shoot on?" Demidov shouts from the bed through the speaking tube. Another innovation. A hose from a gas mask run from the cab to the cabin. "Heavy. Can't turn the wheel," answers Ryabov. "But she holds the road like an iron." They get on the highway, 30 kilometers to the front line. They have time to get used to the new physics of the machine. Get used to the fact that they are now target number 1. Demidov strokes the cold bolt of the cannon. 500 shells. 500 chances to change the course of history on one specific sector of the front. The cold chills to the bone, but an angry fire burns inside. They did the impossible. They assembled a doomsday machine in 24 hours. Now the simplest and scariest part remains: to use it for its intended purpose. The meeting with the bars is inevitable, and it won't be a shooting gallery execution like with the motorcycles. It will be a duel of hammer and anvil, where the anvil is German frontal armor, and the hammer is Soviet engineering fury packed into a 23mm caliber. Height 212, a grey frozen bump on the map, for which command is ready to lay down a battalion. There are no full-profile trenches here, only hastily dug foxholes in the frozen ground, where infantry presses into the earth, praying for this day to end. But the day is just beginning, and it brings sound. Heavy, rhythmic clanking of metal on metal, the screech of tracks. Out of the morning fog they crawl, 3 low, squat silhouettes. They have no turrets. Gun barrels stick straight out of the frontal plates like insect stingers. Stu G3 assault guns. In reports, they call them bars. These aren't tanks. This is self-propelled artillery, created to support infantry. The low profile makes them a difficult target. Frontal armor, 50mm of cemented Krupp steel. The angle of slope increases the effective thickness to values that make 23mm laughable. Demidov looks through the shield slot. His hands rest on the aiming wheels. Breathing stops. He sees the enemy. Distance, 600 meters. "Armor piercing," he commands himself, though the belt is already loaded. Ryabov in the cab sees the bars through the narrow vision slit. His heart skips a beat. He knows the numbers. He is an engineer. The armor-piercing incendiary shell of the WWII-23 cannon at this distance won't take 50mm. It will simply splash against the armor, leaving a black soot spot. Ricochet. Physics is relentless. The shell is lighter and softer than that steel plate. If they accept battle head-on, they are dead. The Germans have 75mm short-barreled guns. A high-explosive shell of that caliber will turn their ironclad ZIS-5 into a mass grave, along with all their armor of barrels and scrap metal. "Don't shoot!" yells Ryabov into the speaking tube. "Won't penetrate the front!" "I know!" Demidov's voice sounds calm, scary. "Wait!" The bars crawl confidently. They see only infantry ahead.
They don't know that in the hazel bushes, covered with a camouflage net, stands a truck with an aircraft cannon. 500 meters. 400. The Germans deploy into combat formation, fan out. They open fire with machine guns, combing the bushes. Tracers click against branches, cutting them like a razor. One bullet hits the welded side of the ZIS, a ringing, dry blow. Metal holds. 8 millimeters was enough. "Andrei!" shouts Ryabov. "They're gonna find us right now!" "Tracks," whispers Demidov. "I need their tracks." The vulnerability of any armored vehicle is the running gear. Tracks. Pins connecting the links. Drive sprocket. If you break a track, 30 tons of German steel will start spinning in place. Inertia will turn the machine, exposing the side. And the side of a Stug is 30 millimeters. Vertical plate. No slope. That is already our food. "Start it!" commands Demidov. "Full throttle! Cut them off!" It is suicide. Jumping out in a truck against 3 self-propelled guns, but it is the only chance. A static target will die. A moving one has a chance to survive due to the angular velocity of the German gun's traverse. The Stug G has no turret. To shoot sideways, it needs to turn the whole hull. That is slow. Seconds. And the ZIS-5, accelerated to 40 kilometers per hour, will slip through this sector faster. The engine roars. The truck, breaking bushes, jumps out onto the field. Mud flies from under the wheels. The heavy machine lists, boxes of shells rattle. The Germans spot them. The lead, bars, starts to turn its hull. Its gun barrel seeks the impudent target. "Left! Hit the gas, Ryabov!" screams Demidov, spinning the horizontal aiming wheel. The turret rotates stiffly. The grease has thickened, but adrenaline gives his arms hydraulic strength. Distance. 200 meters. Demidov catches the drive sprocket of the front SPG in the sight, the toothed gear that pulls the track. Fire. Rat-a-tat-tat! The aircraft cannon barks, spitting a burst of 5 shells. Recoil hits the truck frame. The ZIS shudders, veering off course, but the shells are already on their way. Impact. Flashes on the Germans' running gear. One shell smashes the idler, the second tears a track link. The track belt, tense as a string, snaps with a monstrous sound. The heavy steel snake flies off the rollers, whipping the fender. Inertia physics works instantly. The left track jams, the right continues to pull. The Stug jerks sharply to the left, pivoting sideways to the oncoming truck. There it is, the side. Gray, flat, vulnerable. Behind it, ammo storage and crew. "Eat it, scum!" Demidov presses the trigger all the way. Now the distance, 100 meters. Point blank. Armor-piercing incendiary shells stitch through the 30mm side armor like a hole puncher through paper. Sparks. Fountains of fire. Hell begins inside the German machine. Shells ricochet off the walls of the fighting compartment, turning the insides of the SPG into a meat grinder. Hatches fly open, thick black smoke pours out. First one down, but there are 3 of them. The second, bars, has almost turned its hull. Its gun looks straight into the ZIS cab. Ryabov sees the black pupil of death. "Maneuver!" Demidov stomps on the floor. "Get off the line!" Ryabov cranks the heavy steering wheel, devoid of power steering. The ZIS skids. Rear wheels slide on frozen grass. The truck goes into a drift, but that is exactly what saves them. Shot from the German gun. The shell passes a meter from the cab, dousing them with heat and shockwave. If they had driven straight, they would be gone. Now a duel for speed. Who is faster? The turn of the German hull, or Demidov's reload and aim? "Optics!" commands the sergeant. He understands. He won't penetrate the front of the second one in time. The angle is too sharp. But if he deprives the enemy of sight, the WWII-23 spews a new portion of metal. Demidov hits in a fan across the superstructure. The vision blocks, the panoramic sight. High explosive fragmentation shells burst on the frontal armor. They don't penetrate it, but they sweep away all external equipment. Optics shatter into glass dust. Periscopes are blown out. The commander's cupola takes a direct hit and deforms, jamming the hatch. The German goes blind. The machine jerks, stops, then starts backing up, blindly, crushing its own motorcycle. The crew is in panic. They hear impacts on the armor. They see nothing. They have concussions from the explosions right in front of their faces. The third Stug doesn't engage. Seeing the death of one comrade and the flight of the second, the commander of the third vehicle decides to retreat. He shifts into reverse and, firing smoke grenades, crawls away into the fog. The ZIS-5 stops. The engine is boiling. Steam bursts from under the hood. The radiator is pierced by a stray fragment. Brake pads smoke. Silence in the cab. Only the heavy, raspy breathing of two men. Ryabov drops his head onto the steering wheel. His hands shake so bad he can't unclench his fingers. Glasses are fogged. Demidov in the cabin sits on an empty box. The cannon barrel is crimson. Heat radiates from it like from a stove. Casings cover the floor in a solid carpet, ankle deep. Ringing in ears drowns out all world sounds. "We did it," whispers Demidov. He doesn't believe it. 3 assault guns, elite armored troops, and 1 truck assembled from scrap metal in a day. It wasn't a victory of armor. It was a victory of tactics and engineering cynicism. The heavy truck turned out to be more maneuverable than the tracked SPG on viscous ground. The rate of fire of the aircraft cannon allowed finding the vulnerability faster than the German could fire 1 accurate shot. Demidov wipes his face. Blood remains on his glove. Blood runs from his nose. Vessels burst from the pressure change during firing. "Student!" he shouts into the tube. "You okay?" "Alive." Ryabov's voice is weak. "Radiator is leaking, Andrei." "We won't go far." "Don't give a damn." Demidov smiles with split lips. "Main thing, they didn't pass. The height is ours." He looks at the smoking carcass of the first bars. The 23mm armor-piercing shell found its target. Probability theory and the law of large numbers. If you release enough metal in the right direction, even the strongest armor will give. But this was the peak, the limit of possibilities. The machine is on the verge of collapse. The men are on the verge of a nervous breakdown. The ZIS-5 survived the fight, but it is dying. The frame is twisted like a screw from overloads during turns. Leaf springs snapped. This was their finest hour. Dancing with death twice to the same music won't work. From the direction of our positions, infantrymen are running. They wave their hands, shouting, "Hurrah!" They saw this fight. For them, it is a miracle, a feat. For Demidov and Ryabov, it was heavy, dirty, deadly work. Work of delivering kinetic energy to vulnerable nodes of enemy equipment. Without heroism. Only calculation, reaction, and cold steel. And now, when adrenaline leaves, emptiness comes. And the understanding, war does not forgive luck. It demands payment. And the bill for this fight is yet to be paid. If not in blood, then in nerves. Not now, then later. In offices where people sit who have never heard the screech of a tearing track. Army headquarters is 20 kilometers from the front line. You can't hear explosions here, but you can hear the clatter of underwood typewriters. This is another front. Paper. And here are its own laws of ballistics. Major Krylov holds a sheet of paper. It is the answer to his report number 412/7, a report in which he detailed, with attached diagrams and combat application results, the design of the snow tornado. He didn't ask for medals. He asked for permission for serial conversion of ZIS-5 trucks into aircraft cannon carriers by field workshops. The answer came from the front's technical department. Fast. Too fast. Krylov rereads the text. Dry, bureaucratic phrases. The ink is purple. The denied stamp sits crooked, crossing out hope. The design is deemed technically unsound and dangerous for operation. Demidov and Ryabov sit in the dugout. They washed, but even laundry soap won't take the soot ingrained in their skin. They look a decade older than their age. Ryabov squints. He hasn't been issued new glasses yet. Demidov smokes, staring at one point. Read it. Krylov pushes the sheet across the rough table toward them. Ryabov takes the paper. He reads aloud, his voice trembling with resentment he cannot hide. Item 1. Installation of aviation armament on a non-specialized chassis leads to critical wear of the running gear. Engine resource is reduced by 80%. The frame undergoes deformations incompatible with further operation. He raises his eyes to the Major. Major, what the hell kind of operation? The truck lives in battle for 3 days. We burned 3 self-propelled guns. We paid for this ZIS 10 times over. Read on, Lieutenant. Krylov's voice is even. Dead. Item 2. Absence of armor for the cab and gas tank creates unacceptable risk for the crew and ammo load. Makeshift shielding does not meet bullet resistance standards. Ryabov throws the sheet on the table. Does not meet? Do German tanks know we don't meet standards? We survived. We destroyed the Wehrmacht elite on a machine assembled from trash. Demidov silently takes the sheet. He reads to himself. Item 3. High concentration of gunpowder gases in the gunner's work zone exceeds sanitary norms by 12 times. Poisoning by nitrogen oxides is possible. Sanitary norms. In October of 1941. The sergeant grins. A bitter, angry grin of a man who knows the price of life and death. They are right, student, says Demidov quietly. Right? Ryabov chokes with indignation. Andrei, what's with you? We made a discovery. We found a way to give infantry mobile artillery. And they write about sanitary norms? They are writing about industry. Demidov puts the paper on the table. Listen to me. You and I made a unique thing. A one-off. It requires jeweler's work from a welder. It requires aces in the crew. If tomorrow they order all repair companies to make such tachankas, they will ruin hundreds of trucks and cannons. They'll make them crooked, burn out motors, get people killed. In this lies the cruel logic of war. War is statistics. The system cannot rely on the heroism of loners and garage conversions. The system needs the T-34 tank, standard, identical, which can be driven by a tractor driver from yesterday and fixed by a schoolboy from yesterday. Snow tornado is an anomaly, a bright flash. But anomalies don't win wars. Assembly lines win wars. Krylov opens a desk drawer, takes out 2 red boxes. Stand up! Demidov and Ryabov straighten. Backs crack. The habit of standing at attention is stronger than fatigue. By order of the front, for courage and ingenuity displayed in battles for Height 212. The major doesn't like pathos. He speaks quickly, crumpling the official part. He opens the boxes. In the dim light of the kerosene lamp, ruby enamel shines. Orders of the Red Star. Silver. Heavy. Krylov screws the order onto Demidov's tunic, then onto Ryabov's padded jacket. The major's hands smell of tobacco and gun oil. "I serve the Soviet Union," croaks Demidov. "I serve..." Ryabov cuts off. He looks at the medal. It is a high award, very high. But tears stand in his eyes. Not from joy, from powerlessness. "And now listen to the order." Krylov's tone changes, becomes hard, commanding. "The project is closed. Dismantle the cannon and turn it into the aviation weapons warehouse. Send the ZIS-5 to the rear for capital repair." "Comrade Major," starts Ryabov. "As you were," barks Krylov. "This is not up for discussion. The resolution from above is final. Production is irrational." Ryabov lowers his head. For him, this is a designer's tragedy. He created an instrument of victory, and he is being forced to take it apart with his own hands. Turn a masterpiece back into a pile of spare parts. Demidov puts a hand on the technician's shoulder. The heavy palm presses down, grounds him. "Let's go, Lieutenant. An order is an order." They walk out of the dugout. The wind throws prickly snow grit into their faces. Winter is coming into its own. Somewhere far away, to the west, the sky lights up with flashes. The front does not stand still. They walk to the vehicle park. The ZIS-5 stands there, dark, cooled down. It looks like a wounded beast that knows it is being led to slaughter. Armor plates are pitted by shrapnel. Paint on the turret is scorched. "We saved the comms hub," says Ryabov into the void. "We stopped 3 assault guns, and they tell us it's irrational." "We bought time," answers Demidov. He runs a hand along the cold side of the truck. "That is the most important thing. And iron. They'll stamp out new iron." "Not like this," the technician shakes his head stubbornly. "It was perfect balance. I felt it, Andrei. How she took corners, how she handled recoil. It was symbiosis." Demidov takes a wrench out of his pocket. "Take it apart, student." They begin disassembly. It looks like a funeral. Unscrewing nuts that you tightened yourself, putting hope for life into every movement. It hurts. They remove armor plates. They fall onto the frozen ground with a dull thud. The truck undresses, losing its formidable look, turning back into a regular rear-echelon wreck. They remove the cannon. The WWII-23 becomes just a heavy piece of metal again, useless without wings or a carriage. Demidov carefully lays it into a crate. He strokes the barrel goodbye. This barrel saved his life. Paradox of war. You can perform a miracle, but if the miracle doesn't fit the statute paragraph, it is subject to destruction. The bureaucratic machine is scarier than the German one. The German one can be knocked out. The bureaucratic one cannot. By morning, nothing is left of the snow tornado. Just a regular ZIS and boxes of weapons. Ryabov sits on a wheel, twirling a bolt in his hands. A regular rusty bolt that held the turret. "You know, Andrei," he says quietly, "maybe they are right about norms and rules. But if we had followed the rules back there at the airfield, we would have been rotting in a ditch for a week already." "Rules are written for those who want to live long," Demidov spits. "And we wanted to survive right now. Those are different things." He looks at his new medal. Red enamel against a dirty tunic looks alien, too bright, festive. "Wear it, student. That's for bending structural mechanics into a pretzel." A messenger from headquarters approaches them. Senior Sergeant Demidov? Technician Lieutenant Ryabov? Truck to the station leaves in an hour. You are being transferred.
Where? Asks Demidov indifferently.
To a tank brigade, forming near Moscow. Experienced personnel needed.
Demidov and Ryabov exchange glances. Tank brigade. That means real armor, real cannons, factory-made, reliable, boring. There, no need to weld channels from scrap metal. No need to figure out how not to get poisoned by gases. Everything will be by the book there.
Let's go. Demidov tosses a duffel bag onto his shoulder.
They leave without looking back. The story of the snow tornado is finished. It will remain only in a secret folder at headquarters stamped "To Archive" and in their memory. Memory of how 2 men and an aircraft cannon on a rusty truck became scarier than a whole tank company for a few days. Bureaucracy defeated construction, but it couldn't cancel the result. Height 212 remained ours, and that is the only fact that matters. April 12th, 1961. On this day, the whole world looks into the sky. From all loudspeakers of the country comes the triumphant voice of Levitan. Man in space. Gagarin. Gravity is defeated, technology has reached perfection, and now metal serves to carry life to the stars, not death into the black earth. On the streets of Moscow, there is a celebration. People hug, cry with happiness. But in the far hall of the Museum of the Armed Forces, it is quiet. The shouts of the crowd don't reach here. It smells of floor wax, old paper, and dust settling on banners. Here, time froze in 45. By a glass display case in the corner of the hall stand 2 men. One is heavy, bulky, with a gray crew cut of stiff hair. He leans on a cane with an ivory knob. His left leg doesn't bend, a memory of the Kursk bulge, where a shard from a Ferdinand found his tank. On the lapel of a baggy civilian jacket are ribbon bars, among which the worn enamel of the Order of the Red Star dullishly gleams. This is Andrei Demidov. He is 45, but looks 60. The second is thin, stooped, in horn-rimmed glasses with thick lenses. His intelligent face is cut with early wrinkles. A high forehead gives away a man of mental labor. This is professor of the Department of Strength of Materials at the Leningrad Polytechnic Institute, Nikolai Ryabov. His hands resting on the glass of the display case are calm. But if you look closely, on the phalanges of his fingers, whitish scars from welding arc burns are visible. They aren't looking at the banners. They are looking at a small, grainy black and white photograph pinned with thumbtacks to the velvet backing of the stand. The caption under the photo reads, "Samples of folk technical creativity during the defense of Moscow. Homemade firing point on a truck chassis." On the picture is it. Snow tornado. The photographer took it in profile, probably the morning of that very day when the order for disbandment came. The machine looks eerie even 20 years later. Rough, chopped forms of armor plates, weld seams looking like Frankenstein's scars, and the long, predatory barrel of the WWII aircraft cannon sticking out of the cabin like the pointing finger of fate. "Look, Andrei," says Ryabov quietly, his voice echoing off the high ceilings. "The right shield is welded crooked. I was rushing then, eyes tearing up from smoke. Tilted the horizon about 5 degrees. But it held." Demidov smiles with the corners of his lips. There is no mirth in this smile, only the warmth of recognition. "Remember that shard from the mine. If not for that crooked shield, I wouldn't be standing here now." A group of schoolchildren passes by. The guide, a young girl with a pointer, monotonously tells about the strategic genius of the command, about the planned evacuation of industry, about how Soviet factories forged the weapons of victory in a united impulse.
She talks about thousands of tanks, about assembly lines, about standards. Demidov and Ryabov exchange glances. They know a different truth. The truth is that war isn't just an assembly line. It is moments when the assembly line stops, when there are no tanks, when there is no connection. When there is only a dirty, oily hangar, 2 men and a pile of scrap metal from which salvation must be assembled. The guide won't tell the children how burning truck rubber smells when you shoot aircraft shells from it. She won't tell how hands shake when you try to hit the drive sprocket of a self-propelled gun, knowing you have 1 attempt. She talks about heroism. But they know. Heroism is just a pretty wrapper for the madness of desperation and precise engineering calculation. But they didn't put out Krylov's report, notes Ryabov, wiping his glasses with a handkerchief. The one about technical unsoundness. They're embarrassed, chuckles Demidov. Now, in the space age, it's awkward to admit that fascists were stopped on rusty trucks violating all safety norms. Now is the time of rockets, student. Time of clean rooms and white coats. But we violated all laws of physics back then, Andrei. I still give students that problem as an example of what shouldn't work, but did. A system with such recoil should have tipped the chassis. The frame should have snapped on torsion. Vibration should have destroyed the welds. By all formulas, we were dead men before the first shot. Formulas are written for peacetime. Demidov leans on his cane, shifting his body weight. But in war, another law works. The law of will. Iron feels when the man has no choice. It becomes stronger. Ryabov nods. He remembers that night. The cold penetrating the bones, the taste of blood in the mouth, and the sensation of absolute unity with the machine. Then they weren't men and mechanisms. They were a single organism tuned for destroying the enemy. In the photo, Snow Tornado seems small and defenseless. Just a truck. Just a cannon. But for the 2 elderly men at the display case, it is a monument to their personal victory. Not over the Germans. Over impossibility. Wars are won not only by giant factories. Wars are won by madmen with gas torches in their hands who refuse to accept reality as it is. If reality says, "You have no armor," the madman takes a sheet of roofing iron and says, "Now I do." If reality says, "You are surrounded," the madman takes an aircraft cannon and hacks a way out. Improvisation is not chaos. It is the highest form of adaptation. It is the ability of the human mind to find a solution where the manual prescribes dying. And Krylov was a good man, Demidov says suddenly. Pity, died near Königsberg. He understood what we did. Understood that it wasn't a serial model, but a miracle. Miracles aren't put on a production line, agrees Ryabov. Otherwise, they stop being miracles. They stand silently for another minute. Around them is frozen history. IS-2 tanks, ZIS-3 guns, Maxim machine guns. All of this, monumental, correct, factory-made. The steel spine of the army. But somewhere in the foundation of this great victory lies a small, rusty brick of their madness. Their 16 seconds of battle at the crossroads. Their duel with the bars. Their sleepless nights with welding. Without such bricks, the building would have collapsed. Demidov sighs heavily and puts on his cap. Let's go, Nikolai. My leg is aching. Rain coming. Or snow. Let's go, Andrei. They slowly walk toward the exit, tapping the cane and shuffling soles on the parquet. 2 old men dissolving into the crowd celebrating the first flight into space. The world looks to the future, at rockets and satellites, and they carry away the memory of the past. Memory that the most perfect machine isn't a rocket and isn't a tank. It is human ingenuity multiplied by fury and driven into a corner. Demidov stops at the doors, looking back at the display case one last time. From this distance, the photograph can no longer be made out, but he sees it with his inner eye.
"We survived, student," he says, opening the heavy oak door.
"We survived because we knew how to create the impossible," answers Professor Ryabov. The door closes, cutting off the museum silence. Outside, the spring of 1961 is buzzing. Life goes on. And that is the main result of their engineering calculation.